All right, so we are going to grade the bodysuit first and then the pants. In Brightspace, I have uploaded a graded spec for you. The spec is empty, but the rules are there. We're going to do alpha sizing for this body, so we only have 2 smaller sizes and 2 larger sizes. Please note that these are formulas, so that when we do fill in these measurements, the formulas will populate, okay? But notice that when I have formulas in here like this, the grade ends up showing up cumulative, meaning this looks like it's a 4-inch grade, but if you click into the cell, it's actually a 2-inch movement, okay? It's just calculating it from the previous size, which means it's going to show up as double, okay? So that being said, our waist, hip, chest, bust, waist, hip are all 2-inch grades, okay? So we don't have any separate breaks this time. So our grade will be consistent. The value will be consistent for all sizes. The first thing I'm going to do is come into AccuMark Explorer and go ahead and create a new grade table. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the comments the name of this assignment, LAL 2503. This is the bodysuit and pants. We're going to do one rule table for both. We're going to change this to alphanumeric. My base size is medium. My smallest size is extra small. I'm going to list out small, medium, large, and extra large. And I'm going to save this as my initials. Okay. Then I'm going to go into the rules, and I'm going to go ahead and make myself a few rules here. So for the bodysuit, we will have rules 1 through 10. Okay, I'm going to save this. Now we're going to use the graded spec here. Okay, we're going to use the graded spec alongside the schematic to try to get you a good visual. So we're going to go through our Ys first. Our Ys are our widths. They're usually a little bit easier, especially on tops, because we only grow at the side seam on tops. So that means for those circumferences, the bust, waist, hip that are 2 inches, remember that as a general rule, we take circumferences and we divide them by 4. We take widths and we divide them by 2. That is for measurements as well as grade rules. So if I have a 2-inch grade around my circumference, I have 4 panels. 2 divided by 4 is going to be 1/2. So that means the Y value for 4, 5, and 6 is going to be 1/2 inch. Okay. For my 7 and 8, we're going to check out the neck width. Okay, the neck width is measured from high point shoulder to the opposite high point shoulder. So we will figure out what the neck width is and divide it by 2, because right here, 8 to center back and 8 to center front is half of our neck width. So our neck width grade is 1/4 inch. Sorry. Nope. Is 1/4 inch, so 1/4 divided by 2 is 1/8. Okay, so our Y value here is going to be 1/8 inch. Now, for the 7 rule, we have to take into consideration if we have a shoulder width. However, because this is a bodysuit, I have given you a strap width. The strap width is not grading at all. So if something doesn't grade, but it is referenced, one of the points on one side is grading, then the other point has to grade with it. Okay, so that means here, if my 8 point is moving 1/8 inch, and I don't want my strap width length to change, then I also need to move my 7 1/8 of an inch. If I were to leave it at 0, then my strap would get 1/8 of an inch smaller for the larger sizes and 1/8 of an inch bigger for the smaller sizes, which we do not want. Okay. All right, my Y value at these grade rules on the x-axis are going to be 0. Okay. And so lastly, we have to figure out 3. So if I look at what point of measure is dictating my grade rule number 3, it's the crotch width at seam. So this is grading 1/8 of an inch per size. So if the whole crotch width from this point to the opposite point is grading 1/8 of an inch per size, half of that is going to be 1/16 of an inch. So I'm going to type in 1/16 here. Okay. So we now can go ahead and enter these Y values into our grade rule table. Okay. Let's see if I can do this on the same screen to be helpful. Okay, so my grade rule number 1 stays 0. My grade rule number 2 is 0 in the in the Y. My grade rule 3 in the Y is going to be negative 1/16, negative 1/16, positive 1/16, positive 1/16. My 4 rule will be negative 1/2, positive 1/2, positive 1/2. I'm going to copy this Y rule to 5. I'm going to copy this Y rule to 5 and to 6. My 7 is going to be minus 1/8, minus 1/8, positive 1/8. And I'm going to copy this rule to my 8. Okay. And then my Y rule for 9 and 10 will be 0. The 10 is the back neck drop and the 9 is the front neck drop. Okay. This will also be 0. So now we have to figure out our X rules. So for this pattern, our origin point is at the waist. So that means we're going to have to grade in this direction and we're going to have to grade in this direction, similar to how we did the dress, the princess seam dress. So I'm going to take a look at my graded spec and see what will contribute to the length. So I have body lengths grading 3/4. I have a neck drop of 1/4, back neck drop of 1/8, armhole drop of 1/4, waist placement 3/8, and crotch depth 1/4. So I'm going to take this 3/4 first, and I'm going to try to figure out how much goes above my waist and how much goes below my waist. I have a waist placement from high point shoulder. So that is this distance from waist to high point shoulder is going to be 3/8 of an inch. So I know now that I need to account for 3/8 of an inch above my waist. And if my whole grade from crotch to high point shoulder is 3/4, then 3/4 minus 3/8 is also 3/8, which means 3/8 is going to grow below my waist seam and 3/8 is going to grow above my waist seam. Okay. So next I need to figure out how much. So let's say I have a slash line here. Oops. Okay. And let's say I have a slash line here. Let's say I have a slash line here, and let's say I have a slash line here. Okay. So if I need to account for 3/8 here. Let's see, we have a crotch depth, which is from here to here. So let's see what that grade is. That's 1/4 of an inch. So that means that this line is going to, this slash line will be 1/4. Okay, so that this distance from here to here changes a quarter. I know that this half of my body needs to grade 3/8, so 3/8 minus a quarter is 1/8 of an inch, which means this slash line will be 1/8 of an inch. Okay. On the top half, I know this whole waist placement is going to grade 3/8. Okay, these too many numbers. And I don't know what this distance is, but I do know what this grade is because from my 6 to my high point shoulder is my armhole drop, and my armhole drop is grading 1/4 of an inch. So I am going to call this slash line 1/4 of an inch. 3/8 minus 1/4 is 1/8, which means this slash line is 1/8. Okay, we'll get to the neck drops in just a minute. So we can start assigning X rules now. So my X rule at 2 and 3, I'm going from waist seam past 1, 2 slash lines. 1/8 plus 1/4 is 3/8 of an inch. Okay, same goes here. Now keep in mind that these X's down here are going to be negative for the larger sizes because I'm in the negative X quadrant. Okay. For my 4 rule, I'm only going from waist to this position and I'm crossing the slash line. So this is going to be 1/8 of an inch. Okay. Same thing here. This value will be negative for the larger sizes. Now I'm flipping back over my y-axis, which means I'm back into negatives for smaller sizes. My rule 5 is my origin point, so this X rule will be 0. For my 6, I'm going from waist seam to armhole. I'm crossing this slash line, so I have 1/8 of an inch. Smaller for my negative for my smaller sizes, positive for my larger sizes. To get to 7 and 8, I'm crossing 1/8 and 1/4. These become 3/8. Okay, and then for my front neck drop and back neck drop, because my shoulder is already grading 3/8 of an inch, I want my front neck drop to grade 1/4. So my movement has to be the difference between those two. So 3/8 minus 1/4 is 1/8 of an inch. And for my back neck drop, I want my grade to be 1/8. So 3/8 minus 1/8 is 1/4. Okay, it's a little counterintuitive, but you have to take into consideration what's already moving. All right, so now I'm going to take these values and I'm going to enter them into my gradable table. So for X's, 2, I have 3/8, 3/8, negative 3/8, negative 3/8. I can copy this rule to the 3. For the 4, I have 1/8, 1/8, negative 1/8, negative 1/8. For the 5, I have zeros. For the 6, I swap my negatives, but I still have 1/8 and then positive for the larger sizes. And for the 7, I have negative 3/8, negative 3/8, positive 3/8, positive 3/8. This X rule is the same for the 8. My 9 is going to have minus 1/8, minus 1/8, positive 1/8, positive 1/8. And my 10 rule will have negative 1/4, negative 1/4, positive 1/4, positive 1/4. Okay, and I'm going to save this. We'll do the pant grade in the next video, and then we will do a video applying these to the pattern.